All right, so we are live. Hey everyone, my name is Sai. I am the CEO and co-founder of Crowdcast, and I want to welcome you guys to CreatorCast. CreatorCast is our bi-weekly show where we dig into the stories of the creators on Crowdcast who are using the platform and to really bring together their audience and ultimately make a living online. Now, there is a ton of different ways to do that. There's a ton of different applications and tools and strategies and things like that. And so we really take this opportunity to dig into different pieces of that with each guest. But first, some housekeeping before I introduce our guest today. You guys have already found the chat. That's awesome. This show is very interactive, so please take advantage of that. If you have any comments or things like that you want to share about the topic today, just drop that into that chat, whether it's on the bottom of your screen or to the right of your screen. And within the theme of interactivity, you have the opportunity to actually ask our guest today, Yanla, questions. So underneath our face, you'll see there's an ask a question. There's already several of you that submitted questions. That's awesome. But during the end, we'll take some of the audience questions, starting from the most voted. So you definitely want to submit your question early and upvote them early so that we can get to those first in case we don't have time because we tend to run over. This is 60 minutes, so we're going to try to pack in as much as we can, with the analyst time in that 60 minutes. And then make sure to share the link. So right at the top, it says crowdcast.io/creatorcast. That link is the only link. Just share that with your friends, family, coworkers, people who you want to also join you remotely in this virtual show. And then last but not least, we are also streaming to Facebook Live and YouTube. So if you're watching it out there, hey guys, we're not monitoring the chat there. So if you want to come over to Crowdcast, just come to crowdcast.io/creatorcast to join us live, where we can have you meet everybody else and ask questions right here. So without further ado, I'm super excited about our guest today. So this is our first show of the year. Oh, by the way, let us know where in the world you guys are tuning in from. I am hanging out today in Mill Valley at a friend's place deep in the redwoods. So really, really peaceful. It's like a stream outside. But just type into the chat where in the world you guys are tuning in from. Mill Valley is north of San Francisco. But yeah, so let's get to it. So our guest today, I'm super excited to bring onto the show because she's one of the most inspirational people that I know. And I'm just incredibly humble that she is using Crowdcast to connect with her audience. Every few weeks, she brings together thousands of people in what she calls the spiritual spa, as well as other sort of online courses that she's hosting that are both a mix of live and recorded content. She's written and published 16 books, and she's been on the New York Times bestseller list 6 times. She's the host and executive producer of Yanla Fix My Life. And Yanla embodies a no-nonsense approach in her message and teaching style. She's outspoken, very transparent, truthful, and wise. Please give me your virtual round of applause to bring on Yanla Vincent. So Yanla, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. So,
Good.
I mean, I'm sure you've been on stage so many times. I'm sure you're super comfortable telling your whole story, but we're not going to get into all of it today. But
Okay.
we do want to hear just at the beginning. Like, I love to kick things off with like, where did you get started? Like, what was your early childhood like?
Dysfunctional. But back then it wasn't called dysfunctional, it was called crazy. Um,
Hmm.
I was born in Brooklyn, New York. Yay, Brooklyn.
Oh,
I
wow, nice.
was born in Brooklyn, New York, and I was born in a taxi cab, actually, right under the elevated train on Atlantic Avenue, which is a main thoroughfare in Brooklyn. And
Hmm.
my mom was an alcoholic. So I don't know if she didn't know she was in labor or if she just couldn't get there. They got right to the front of the hospital, and I was born in a taxi cab. But what
Wow.
happened was, as a result of that, the cab company couldn't clean the cab. They couldn't get all of my birth effects out of the cab. And they sued my parents. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah. So the story I grew up with is you've been a problem since the beginning. That was the story I grew up with. And I wore that and I carried that. My birth mother passed when I was 2, and nobody bothered to tell me. So I grew up
Oh,
thinking
wow.
one woman was my mother and it was somebody totally different. And I didn't discover that until I was 30 years old. So I always grew up feeling different, very different. I was different because I was psychic, I was clairaudient, I could see. Um, but I grew up in a very religious, traditionally religious household. So that was considered evil, wicked, you know.
Mm.
So, uh, the normal hysteria of children growing up with big people who have broken foundations. And
Yeah.
I had my son when I was 16 years old. I was absolutely in love with his father. That's what I thought. Um, and I had my son when I was 16. And my stepmom, who raised me, I call her my mom, she did something so wonderful for me. She told me, "Oh, you will finish school." So I
Mm.
got a job and I went to night school at 16 years old. Um, then I got
Wow.
married at 19 in a physically and emotionally abusive marriage. And I stayed for 9 years um, because I grew up
And
seeing. I grew up
yeah,
seeing.
yeah.
So
Now,
we
in
just recreate our patterns. We recreate our patterns in our lives.
mhm.
So it
in
was
these
really.
experiences,
Mhm.
in these experiences, I mean, it sounds like you've had a lot of hardship, right? Like early on from the get-go. At which point did you decide to start sharing some of the lessons that you were learning in these experiences?
Oh, much later. Because, of course, when you're going through difficulty, they don't seem like lessons.
Hmm.
It's like, what in the world is going on? And why is it going on with me?
Hmm.
Yeah. But I think I woke up. I would say I woke up when I was 30. I was
30.
about
Hmm.
29, 30 when I woke up to say, it's got to be better than this. Actually, I was younger. I was 21 when I realized that waking up was a process was an opportunity.
Hmm.
My daughter was 6 weeks old, and I had a terrible encounter with postpartum depression and attempted suicide. And I
Hmm.
spent, I think, 8 or 9 weeks in the psychiatric ward. Best thing that could have ever happened.
Hmm.
Because I got to be still, and I got to
Wow.
hear, and I got to listen. Um, so it kind of started then. By 30, I was actually studying personal development, psychology, spirituality, and I was able to reawaken my gifts of clairaudience and clairvoyance to be able to see beyond the physical and hear beyond the physical.
So these early things that you thought was probably really weird, you suppressed until later in life you were developing and looking more deep into this. And you're like, oh wow, there's actually value there. You started working on it more intentionally.
Yeah, because, well, I was told it was wrong. It was
Hmm.
bad, that I could dream something today and it happened tomorrow.
Hmm.
And or people would say things and I could hear something else. So I was told it was bad and wrong. So once really started looking at spirituality and personal growth and development, I understood that it was a gift. And it wasn't a gift for me, it was a gift for other people. I just didn't know how to use it.
Hmm. Now, I'm sure people are wondering in the audience, what are some of these early uh, situations that you had where you saw things or heard things that other people weren't hearing or seeing?
Well, the one thing that I saw was my mother, but I didn't know who she was. I
Oh,
could see
wow.
her, I would see her
Hmm.
in dreams. I
And
would
this is
see her.
before you knew that your
Yes. Oh,
stepmom or the other person.
and I used to call her the pretty brown lady. I used to call her the pretty brown lady. I said, the pretty brown lady told me so and so. Or I had a dream with the pretty brown lady. And, uh, you know, they thought it was an imaginary friend, I guess. But whatever it was deemed evil.
Hmm.
And so the other thing was, I can hear what's not being said. That is so bizarre, even today. So if you're talking to me, I can hear under the words, and it just kind
Hmm.
of comes to me. Um, it's
That's
it's really.
amazing. I would love to get more into that. But yeah, so around 21 to 30, you started developing or focusing more on development. Why was that? Like, what was it that made you think?
Oh,
Was it
because
that? Mo
I was in pain. I was in pain.
Mhm.
I was ugly. I was poor. I was black. I was a freak, an enigma to my family. I didn't, the boys didn't like me because I don't know why.
Mm.
um, I had grown, I had experienced so much trauma. I had been sexually violated, physically violated. I was suffering. And then when my suicide attempt wasn't successful, I said, okay, well, okay, God, then just we need to do something else because this is just not working. Maybe I
Hmm.
didn't say it like that, but you know. And they say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So a number of events and people and books and things just started coming to me, and it just sent me down a different path.
What was one of those first like synchronicities? Do you remember?
Um, oh, I'll tell you. This is what it was. After 9 years in an abusive marriage, I left my husband 2 o'clock in the morning. I had three
Mm.
children. One was 6, one was 4, and the other one was like a year old.
Hmm.
And I picked up and I packed my bags. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. I walked down to the train station, which was about 4 blocks, carrying the baby. Each of the kids had their bag. I'm dragging them along because I took them out of the bed. They had on pajamas and coats. And I got to the train station and said, "Holy jumping Jesus, I don't have no money." I
Hmm.
didn't have any money. So I sat down on the stairs and I'm like, I can't go back. If I go back, he's going to kill me. He's going to kill me. I know it. So I sat there and I said, well, I can ask back then in New York, we used tokens. I said, I can
Hmm.
ask the clerk to give me a token. And I just sat there. No train was coming. It's like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden, I hear these steps and I turn around and it was this man coming down the stairs. Now, I don't know where he came from because no train had come in, no train had left. He just was walking down the stairs and he walked past me. I'm holding one baby, the other one's laying on my lap. My son is sitting next to me. And he said, "What do you need?" What?
Hmm.
What do you need? And I said, "I need a token and a cigarette." I smoked back then. And he gave it to me. He gave me a token and a cigarette.
Mm.
And I got up and I just said, "Oh, thank you." I didn't even say thank you. I took it because I was like shocked. And then I realized I didn't say thank you. So I put the babies down. I had the little one in my arm. I ran down the stairs to run to say thank you to him. Gone.
Uh,
No. And I didn't realize until later in the day, oh my God, that was an angel. That
mm.
was an absolute angel. So I wonder, why didn't I ask him for $1 million?
Just
But
one
in life,
token.
in life, we always ask for so little, and the universe will give us so much, but we ask for the need in the moment instead of the possibility of the forever.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I had a token and
Yeah.
a cigarette.
Wow, that's an amazing, yeah, that's an amazing moment. So then, okay, so this happens, and then you're starting to go out on your own. How did how did you make that work, being a single
Prayer,
mom with?
prayer, 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 prayer. I learned the power of prayer. I learned the
Mm.
power of affirmative thought. I learned the power of affirmation. I learned how to talk myself into, because I came from such a dysfunctional background. I had no life skills. No, I didn't know. I was 22 years old when I went to the bank to ask the officer in the bank to teach me how to write a check.
Mm.
I had no life skills. I knew how to cook and clean and take care of children and get beat up. I knew how to do that. I knew how to feel bad. I knew how to complain. I knew how to fight. But I did not know how to live. So I learned the power of prayer, and I prayed myself through, affirmed myself through, talked myself through, from leaving that marriage into my own apartment, into college, into law school. Prayer, nothing but prayer.
I think that moment in life, I think that's something that people can really, or really need to hear, right?
Yeah.
That moment where it feels like you're at the bottom. And I know you have a crowdcast coming up soon about
Rock
rock
bottom.
bottom.
Oh,
So you guys should
baby, I
check it
know
out
about rock bottom.
in a couple days.
Yeah.
But that moment of hitting rock bottom and then lifting yourself up, right? Like that
Well,
is,
no, you don't lift yourself up. When you hit rock bottom, you learn that God made the rock.
ah,
So you have to develop a relationship with something higher than just your humanness because you can't
mhm,
lift yourself up. You're too busy licking on the rock.
mhm. And in your case, would you say the lifting yourself up was more around disciplining the way you thought and the way you talk to yourself?
Let me tell you, one of the greatest powers that we have that we waste is focus.
Hmm.
Focusing your mind. Focus will take you through the rock if necessary, you know?
Hmm.
And the other thing is being willing to do whatever it takes. In this day and age, you know, we get an instant coffee and an instant potato and instant rice. What is rice, instant rice? What the heck is instant rice? You know, we
Hmm.
want everything like this, like this, like this. But when it comes to changing yourself, changing your mind, manifesting something greater or bigger than what you have to do the work. You have to. There's no way around it. You've got to do the work and focus. Focus develops willpower. Focus develops concentration. And as you focus and concentrate and do your willpower, you can begin to clear away and manifest and grow and heal. And impossible things can happen.
Hmm. A lot of people, when they try to focus, they don't have the enough reason to, like there isn't enough pressure almost. Would you say for you that your children were that, like, right, recognizing that you had to focus and really change your circumstances because there are three people, little ones, relying on your actions?
You know, two things. Number one, well, yes, number one. But number two, we're not taught how to focus. We're
Hmm.
taught how to remember. We are not taught how to focus. We are not taught how to concentrate. And years ago, I mean, when I grew up, I'm old as dirt. So when I grew up, we only had three television stations.
Hmm.
And now we got 867. So we will be staring and gazing, but there's no activity in the mind. So we're not taught how to focus. And I want to say that my children were my motivation because of course I'm a mom, and they were not going to be hungry. They were not going to be abused like I was. That was it. I was a ferocious mother, ferocious. Okay.
Hmm.
But really, when I think about it now, and because my kids are grown, I can say it, I was trying to save my own life. They was just along for the ride.
Hmm.
I was trying to save my own life. And of course, as a mom, I'm going to bring them with me. But they weren't really, now I understand, they were the props. They weren't the motivation.
Wow. Then, so later, as you went to law school and you started working in the world and supporting these kids. What was the step from going from there to showing up in Oprah? Like, what was those, the hoops that you went through?
Okay. I was a public defender in Philadelphia.
Hmm.
Yeah. I was first a DA in New York and then a public defender in Philadelphia. Well, let me say I worked in the public defender's office. Yeah, well, I guess you are a public defender. And one day I had this horrible case where these two men had fought each other and one had gouged the other's eye out. Literally.
Wow.
The eyeball was laying on the floor. Okay. So, and the gouger was my client. Okay.
Ah.
So we go through all of this, and he had done it. But being a lawyer, a criminal lawyer, it's not about guilt or innocence. It's about protecting your client's rights. So I was good, and I got him off because they didn't maintain custody of the eye.
Hmm.
They did not. So they didn't have no evidence. The man's eye was gone, but they didn't know where it was. Okay. So and I just argued the law and I got him off. And I got back to my office and I sat down and I said, okay, this is a problem. I'm in and out of jail every day. Every day I was in jail, to visit my
Hmm.
clients. And now I'm getting, people are walking free when they should be accountable, not punished, but accountable. And I heard a voice say to me, leave here now and don't ever come back. And so I did. I left. I left my degree hanging on the wall, my tea in the drawer. I left and I never went back. I had no idea what I was going to do. And about 2 weeks later, maybe 2 months. No, because I collected unemployment. First time, I didn't even know such a thing existed. I collected unemployment. And then a friend of mine asked me, would you like to teach life skills to women who are on public assistance and are getting off? And I said, sure, I was on public assistance. And that's what I did. I went and taught public life skills that I had learned to the women on public assistance who were, getting job ready. And the workbook that I created for them was called Tapping the Power Within. And I just kept
Mm.
adding to it and adding to it and adding to it. And that became my first book, Tapping the Power
Wow.
Within. And I sold it out the trunk of my car on consignment to all the little bookstores in Philadelphia. The book ended up in DC, in New York, and eventually in an agent's hands. And she called me, Marie Brown called me and said, we need to do something with this book. I said, what book? How did you get my book? And she got me a contract. And as a result of that, I got approached by Simon and Schuster to write a book,
Hmm.
which was Acts of Faith, which is now 25 years old. And 19 books later, you said 16, it's actually 19.
Oh, wow. Okay.
19.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so my 11th book was In the Meantime, Finding Yourself in the Love That You Want.
Hmm.
And Oprah's book club was reading a book about a woman. I don't remember what the name of the book was. And the book club was discussing the book. And one woman, the women were saying, how could she, why this, that? And the woman in the book club said, you will never understand this until you read this book. And she showed them In the Meantime. So
Mm.
all the women in the group went and got In the Meantime, showed it to one of Oprah's producers. And the producer said to Oprah, passing her in the hallway, um, we need to have this woman on the show. And she said, okay. She didn't know me from a can of paint. And that was
Mhm.
the year she was doing Change Your Life TV. So it was me, Dr. Phil, Susie Orman, and John Gray. I was the Tuesday person.
That's amazing. I
So that's
think
how.
that that's, I mean, that to me, the biggest thing that I hear is you kept on putting work out there over and over and over without any expectation. And then you said this was the 11th one, right? The 11th book that you put out
That,
was the one that got picked up, right?
yeah,
And pulled you into that whole world, right?
yeah,
I think that's a huge lesson for people, right?
yeah.
During the between 1 and 11, like you weren't thinking, I'm trying to do this to get on to a TV
No,
show and eventually go down that route. But you were genuinely, my sense is that you just cared about these women and the people who started resonating with your message.
well,
And you had so much.
I found my
Mhm.
purpose. I discovered probably around book number 3 that I am a teacher. I am a
Mm.
teacher, and my books are the curriculum that I use.
Mhm.
That's all it is. I mean, you want to call me an author, a New York Times bestseller. I'm a teacher, and so what I teach didn't exist in anybody's curriculum, so I wrote my own.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. That first book, right? That was done directly with that group that you're working with.
Yes.
The other books, was it a similar process, or just some ideas that were on your mind that you wanted to share?
Well, again, I'm clairaudient, so I hear. Even today in 2020, I'm writing a book right now. I write it by hand.
Oh
I
wow.
write everything by hand because it has to come down. I have to hear it and then I write it out. I can't do it on the electronics. But my second book came because Simon and Schuster contacted my agent, Marie Brown, and they said, "Do you have an author that can write a book for us? We want to help African Americans deal with stress." This was back in the late 80s. And I was like, "Oh, I can do that." And that book became Acts of Faith. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
after Acts of Faith became The Value in the Valley, Black Woman's Guide Through Life Dilemmas, um, where I talked about how culturally, as women of color, there are just some common mistakes we make and some really destructive things we are taught to believe. So the value in the valley really addressed that. And I taught that book for a long time. I think I'm going to teach it again because there's a whole
Mm-hmm.
nother set of problems now.
I think that's just to kind of pause on this topic. This is a big one, particularly for me. And like, I grew up in New Jersey and like inner city, Patterson, New Jersey. I don't know if you know where that is,
Oh,
but
yes, I do. We were
uh,
scared of y'all.
exactly. You don't want to be going through Patterson. And so I only knew people of like POC. I didn't even, I didn't realize I didn't go to school with like white people until I went to high school, you know.
Wow.
And there's a handful of like, I guess, beliefs and ideas that you grow up with being in that environment. What were some of the things that you were teaching and sharing, particularly to those women of color in that book?
That you are good enough. Because one of the things that we're taught is that you're not good enough. I don't care what you do. You can't do it fast enough, right enough, long enough. You're not good enough. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing is that we're taught is that everybody is more important than us. So I wrote
Mm-hmm.
about valley of OPP, the valley of other people's problems, because we're
Mm-hmm.
taught that our job is to take on and resolve other people's problems. Um, the other thing is I'm trying to remember all the valleys now, but they were just so putting yourself last. That's OPP. Um, the valley of not trusting yourself. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we're not taught because what we say, don't say that. You can't do that. It's just so much. And then I grew up in the 50s. I know that's like ancient time to you. I grew up in the
Mm-hmm.
50s. I got bused to high school. So there was not only the cultural norms and traditions within the home and the community, there were the societal norms. I mean, I grew up a nigger. That's what they call me. Even in New York City, when they bust us from Brownsville and Crown Heights to Flatbush, I was still a nigger. Ooh, I shouldn't say that. I was the N word. I was the N word, you
Mm-hmm.
know. I was spit on. Um,
Wow.
so, so there was the social stuff too. And then, just being a woman and how we are at that time, particularly women of color, we were marginalized and we were diminished. And there was no Essence magazine when I grew up. You didn't see yourself in the magazines on television. If you didn't know, you wouldn't know you needed toilet paper, toothpaste, or that you could eat bread because everybody
Mm-hmm.
in the commercials selling you stuff didn't look like you. Um, and what that does. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks in the comments that are just resonating with that. Um, Cookie says, I love this dialogue about stigmas and biases and how we never are taught to address how to deal with them in a constructive way. Um, let's see, Mila says, I was fortunate enough to let my family and everyone familiar read and everyone familiar when I read those books. So I was really open to complete life overhaul. I feel
Yeah.
like, you were a very early image of people, an early image for younger folk who hadn't seen a successful Black woman, right, on TV or in covers, reflected back at them, right?
Yeah.
So I think even just that work alone, just seeing that, right, without you saying anything, I'm sure was a huge impact for a lot of people.
Well, I wasn't on television back then. I looked to Diane Carroll and Esther Roll and Bea Richardson. You
Hmm.
know, the youngins don't even know about them and what they had to go through, to be on television, to perform. I just think that, so much of our history and culture, particularly as people of color, has to be revived. Has to be revived, just as a demonstration of what's possible. Because we
Hmm.
fall, we meet somebody in the bar and fall apart, and sleep with them for 6 weeks, and they leave, and we fall apart. That's not where we come from. When we look at what our grandmothers and great grandmothers had to go through, and I mean, that's across the races. That's across the races. So I don't understand why we're such punks today. We are
Mm-hmm.
such punks. I don't understand it.
Man, well, a lot of things to say to that. Um, so right now I want to get into the how you got the show and everything, but just going back to what you're hosting today on Crowdcast, you've got these huge spiritual spas where you're bringing people together, you're meditating with them, you're grounding them, and then sort of connecting with them directly. You know, forget the TV, right? Just going straight to the people. Why did you choose to go down that format? You know, and as opposed to just like continuing to do the show or other ways of connecting with people through books.
Because I'm a teacher, and the teacher has to touch the students. You
Hmm.
know, I love Crowdcast. It's so intimate. There was so many questions. I had to set it up so they could send me the questions. But
Hmm.
I'm a teacher, and so my vision, my purpose, my mission is to draw out. Many people think that a teacher puts in. No, it's to draw out. And when I'm on the screen on the television, which I love, what a blessing that is, there's no intimacy.
Mm.
There's a separation, and it becomes only entertainment. It's only entertainment. So I wanted to do this where I can answer people's questions and be with them and touch them and talk to them and educate, because I'm a teacher. That's what I do.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's pretty much the way we think of it. Is like, you know, we feel like we've built something that allows time and space to just like bend together, and you're in the same moment with everyone, even though you're
Yeah,
across the planet. And even if you
right.
can't see them directly face to face, you see their words, right? And you know that they're here. That's a completely different experience than what's been available before, right? Um,
Yeah. And it's important in this day and age of devices.
mhm.
I don't care who you call, you get a recording. And so many people feel alone. So many people are suffering, you know. And so even though I can never answer every question, I can never meet every need. Just the mere fact that they have the opportunity to be together. Because if you watch, they start talking to each other.
Mhm.
They start talking to each other, and that's what's so beautiful about. So thank you and your other developers for Crowdcast. um
Appreciate it. Yeah.
it's an incredible platform. I love it. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, we're incredibly grateful to do this. And you're also doing a course, right? So how are you, I mean, we don't have to get into the super technical details of it, but like, how are you structuring your course?
Well, this is the beginning of the year, beginning of a decade, and this 2020 is a 4 year. So, I mean, I've studied numbers, colors, signs, all kind of stuff, but
Hmm.
4 is such an important year. And as I look around the world today, what is just so clear to me is how people have lost their way because their foundation wasn't laid properly. My foundation wasn't laid properly. So I know what that work is about. So for the 4 year 2020 is about fundamentals and foundations. So
Hmm.
I'm offering this course from the ground up to support people who may have lost their footing or their way. A 6 week course. You get an assignment every day. Why? Focus. You gotta focus, and you got to do the work. This is not a goal building course. We're not making goals and vision boards. No, no, no. We are laying or relaying, creating or recreating a foundation, which means you got to look at yourself. Do you know how hard it is to really look at yourself and tell the truth about yourself? So I've done it in bite-sized pieces every day. Every day they'll get, each week, each of the 6 weeks, they'll get a meditation from me. I voiced that they have to listen to every day, and an affirmation that I voiced that they have to repeat every day. Why? Repetition is the mother of skill. I can go out to the basketball court and dribble a basketball, but that's not going to make me Michael Jordan. You got to practice. So over the course of the 6 weeks, they get a new part of their foundation every week. They get an assignment every day, first thing in the morning, last thing at night. They get their meditation, they get their affirmation, and then we'll be together week 1, week 3, and week 6, because I want to check in. I want to see where people are and answer questions in real time. So I am so excited. I'm really excited because It gives me an opportunity to be in touch with people all over the world, first of all, because we think, we're in Chicago or Philly or New York or DC, and the problem is, or Oakland, it's just no, people are suffering. They're suffering. And I want my mission in life is to support the evolution of human consciousness, one mind, one body, one life, one spirit at a time. That's why I'm on the planet. Now I may have to do that in groups of 2,000, but I'm focusing on you. I want you to do your work. I want you to learn how to pray. I want you to know who you are. I want you to stand authentically. I want you to take responsibility for you right now. It's just me and you.
Yeah, that's exactly why we built Crowdcast. It's like people like yourself, we want to like give you tools to reach those people, right? All over the world. Oftentimes when you're really focused on developing yourself, you're not focused on figuring out how technology works, right? And oftentimes it gets in the way of the flow of information, right? Just for you, like when you're writing, you want to do it by hand on paper, right? And so we feel like our role here is kind of like the bridge builders to give folks like yourself the tools to bridge that information with the folks who are on their phones, on their tablets, on their laptops,
Yeah,
right? All over the
yeah.
world.
And the thing is, it's it's never too late. I started when I was 30. I'm 67. And I'm still learning. I'm still learning. And I get excited about learning. Because I have to stay on my game because I got a lot of students,
Mm-hmm.
and the power and the energy of a community. Even in Patterson, the community was tight, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The power of community, so we're going to have a Facebook community. People are coming in cohorts. So there'll be a group of 25, and each group of 25 is going to live and embody a principle. And they're going to, I'm so excited I could just pee.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
I know there's more I want to chat about around just like how you got into your show, but I just want to take a question from the audience. There's already a bunch here waiting, so
Okay.
and you can follow along
Hi,
if you open up to ask your
somebody used to
question.
see me in Brooklyn. Yeah, hi.
Oh, that's great. So this one's from Team Seeds. Yanla, what was your moment of breakthrough? In other words, when did you first see the signs that others were resonating with and supporting your purpose?
I don't understand that. What does that mean? Say that again.
I guess I interpret that as when was the first time that you saw that that in your case that you are a teacher, right? That you saw that as being your purpose.
When you're healing, growing, developing, you don't have time to ask those kind of deep questions. It's not, oh, am I seeking my purpose? No.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I learned it. The finger of God never points where the hand of God won't make a way. And because I had such a deep prayer life, I learned to follow my guidance. Go here, do that. Go here, do that. I had already written 4 books when I realized I was a teacher, and this is how I found out. I went to a speaking engagement in Washington, D.C. I was still living in Philadelphia at the time. And one of the speakers there was Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, who wrote Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. And he knew me from Essence Magazine and here and there. And he said, come here, you just come over here. And he said, you're doing such a good job. Thank you so much. I'm really proud of you, blah, blah, blah. He said, I got one thing to say to you. And he looked me in my eye. He said, specialize. Specialize. You cannot be everything to everybody. Specialize. Who are you talking to? What do you have to say? And why are you qualified to say it? Okay. Listen, I chewed on that for about 2 years. And then I realized I can teach empowerment. I am an empowerment specialist. That's what
Hmm.
I am. And that became my mantra. I'm an empowerment specialist. And back then, we're talking the 80s and 90s, nobody knew what that was. And my speaking agent used to say, you can't put that on your resume. Yes, put it on my resume. I'm an empowerment specialist. If you are disempowered in your mind, your heart, your body, your life, I can help you. I got something for you, but you got to do the work. So that's how it unfolded for me.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then the other question I had to ask myself, am I a writer who speaks or a speaker who writes? Fine distinction. But if I'm a writer, then my focus is writing. And I speak as a side job. If I'm a speaker, then I'm looking for speaking opportunities, and writing is my side job. And that's how I got to, I'm not either of those. I don't speak to be speaking, I speak to teach. Oh, I'm a teacher. Who knew?
Mm.
But
That's a great
if
question
you,
to ask yourself.
yeah, if you are grounded and centered in your foundation, mind, body, spirit, you have the answer side. You have the answer. How did you create Crowdcast? Were you just sitting around one day say, "Oh, let me create this platform for people to come together"? I mean, it was like a culmination of ideas and things, right?
Hmm. I mean, it's that question that you ask, like, what is the thing that you can provide that you know you're really great at? And for me,
Yes.
that was, how can I build tools and technologies to bring people together, right? And
Yeah.
so it was very clear for me, but it took many years to get there.
Yeah.
Um,
Me too.
mhm,
Me too. I didn't know if I was a speaker who wrote or a writer who spoke, and I was
mhm,
speaking about everything. And then when I focused and began to focus on one thing, and then that got narrow and narrower. So now I'm a spiritual empowerment specialist. Actually, I'm a soul technician because I know everything there is to know about the spirit and the soul, and I just teach the technology. That's what I
mhm,
do now.
mhm.
Okay. So in my other life, I was an empowerment specialist.
That's amazing. I love the new language. Um, Okay, so next question here is from Mila. Over 25 years ago at 24, someone gave me one of your books when I needed it most. With so much being online now, what key tools and programs have you found to have reach and have great impact with young women and teens today?
Mine.
Maybe.
What am I going to
Maybe.
say? What am I going to say? I have an entire institute. I
Mhm,
train coaches. I have a 2-year personal development program. I train ministers, Intervisions Institute for Spiritual Development. I do 2 annual workshops for women that draw women from all over the world. I do 1 workshop a year for men. I do 1 workshop a year for women. And now I'm doing the online stuff. So the
mhm,
program that I can vouch for, that I know the integrity of and the value of, is mine.
mhm. 100%.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so I want to get back to just some of the story bits here. So you were on the Oprah like show on Tuesdays, right? You're sort of the guest,
Tuesday.
um,
Yeah. Every other
and then
Tuesday.
and then I obviously a lot of things happened that eventually led you to host your own
No,
show.
I lost. I recreated my pattern of not being worthy. That's what
Mm.
happened. Now
So
the
deep
details
in
of what
in
that
your
looked like.
career.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. What that looked like on the surface was I asked a question that wasn't received or misunderstood, and then I was excommunicated from the Oprah Winfrey Show, and I spent the next 11 years speaking and teaching. I had my institute, so I had students and I was training. I just wasn't in the public world because
Hmm.
sometimes when you have to heal something, you have to be secluded. You don't need to be in the public eye. And so for 11 years, I continued to teach, I continued to speak, I continued to write. But in the process, I was healing my belief that I was unworthy. Oprah Winfrey and Barbara Walters were vying for me, the 2 most powerful women in television. I, born in a taxi cab, growing up in dysfunction. The pattern, the subconscious mind is always moving. I didn't deserve it. So I had to create a way to blow my life up. And that's what people do all of the time. It gets too good, we'll blow it up. A relationship, a job, doing something stupid. we'll blow it up because of the subconscious belief I don't deserve it, I'm not good enough, I can't have it, I'm not worthy. So we'll blow it up. And so I blew it up.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I filed back and lost my house to bankruptcy, and my 40-year relationship ended, and my daughter died, I was healed. I was
Yeah.
healed. Okay. And I got back in the saddle because not only do you need focus, you need perseverance.
Mm-hmm.
You got to fall and get up, 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 fall and get up. When you understand your purpose, even if you don't understand your purpose, because serving in the world or carrying a great gift, it's not for punks. You can't cut and run at the first sign of trouble. You have to fall and get up, fall and get up, fall and get up, fall and get up. So I fell, I got up, I was minding my business, not doing anything in the world. And I tell you how the woman in the book club presented my book, and that's how I got on Oprah. Oh, no, this was after Oprah. What happened was somebody on the plane was reading the book, and Oprah saw it. And it was her last season. It was her last season.
Mm-hmm.
And she saw the book and picked it up and invited me. And I was the first guest in her final season to have 2 shows. And we had our healing conversation out loud, because that's something else we don't know how to do. We don't know how to mend fences and heal with one another. Well, me and her did it publicly out loud on national TV for 2 hours.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Would you say what happened to you was you realized your value, you started living your purpose, which is valuing yourself highly. You started seeing that being reflected to you, and over you started seeing that you were reflected, what was reflected back to you was that you're really, really valuable, to the point that you start believing that what people saw wasn't exactly what you saw. And that's where things started to shift.
I still struggle with that. I still struggle with it. There are things that are impressed upon our minds that we can work years to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
I have dominion over it now, but it's not gone away. I had an experience this morning. I have a 5:30 prayer call with my students. And one of my students on the phone this morning read a prayer out of my book, Every Day I Pray, which I wrote in 1996. And she was reading that prayer, and I was literally weeping in awe. It was the most exquisite thing I had ever heard. I don't even remember writing it
Mm-hmm.
because I still don't see myself the way other people see me. I do my work and I do it well because I love it. And that's enough. That's enough. Because if I get too big, I may get caught up in the ego. So I still struggle with that. And that's how I stay humble. I have issues. I have challenges. My son told me yesterday if I wasn't a Virgo, I'd be a hoarder. He said, you collect things, Ma. You collect things. And I had to look around. I do. I got 4 libraries. I've got like 1,000 Bibles. I love books. I got 8 closets. Come on. If I wasn't a Virgo, I'd be a hoarder.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important advice that people need to listen to. We only have 10 more minutes. For the
Okay.
folks who are, because a lot of folks have tuned in while we're live, make sure to share this link with other folks, your family, your coworkers that you'd want to join us. And also, I don't know if you guys know, but you have the ability to clip any moments. If there's anything that you found valuable in the moment or even in the replay, you can click that button in the bottom left corner and just clip 15 seconds of that and share it out to folks out there. Let's take a few more questions because there's a ton here.
You didn't go in the ask the question room.
Yeah. So if you open up that, you'll see a bunch of them in there.
You
We've
want me
taken
to
a
open
couple.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead. So
Okay.
if you see any that jumps out at you, feel free.
How do you find your purpose? That's a big one.
That's
Who's
from
asking
Bianca.
that? Yeah. You don't find your purpose. Your purpose gave birth to you. What you can do is allow it to unfold. And here's how. Do what brings you joy. I guarantee you that your purpose is attached to your joy. Understand that your purpose and your job are two different things. Everybody is not fortunate enough for their purpose to earn them a living. Yeah? Do what brings you joy. Do what you're good at. Do what you're good at because you're good at your purpose. And what is that thing that brings you joy that you're good at that you would do for free if you didn't have to worry about money? I guarantee you, if you answer those questions, you will find your purpose. The other thing is get Arnold Patton's book, You Can Have It All. Arnold Patton, You Can Have It All. That's classic. See how generous I am? I promote other authors
That's great.
because I don't have to write that book. He wrote it.
That's awesome. All right, next one's from Genevieve. If you have any tools that you can share to overcome procrastination.
Come to from the ground up. Procrastination is a subconscious thought that needs to be adjusted that is attached to fear. So if procrastination is an issue, come and take from the ground up.
Nice. Okay, this one's from Keith Brock. Topic is not depending on others for purpose and ways to spark creativity that don't cost much money.
Say it again.
If you have any insights around the topic of not depending on others for purpose and ways to spark creativity that don't cost much money.
Well, creativity is huge. Do you cook? Do you sew? Do you do art? Do you sing? Do you dance? I mean, what is it? Do what brings you joy. Everybody has some level of creativity. You know, I can't draw worth a darn, but I can cook. I can't sing. Well, I can sing. I just don't sound good. You know, but when you say spark creativity, you got to find what you're good at and do it just for doing it. Like I sew. I mean, I'm an accomplished tailor, but I don't do it much anymore because I did it to feed my kids for a long time and it didn't bring me joy. It became a job. So now I don't do it unless I want to. You don't have to. Go ahead.
What do you say to the folks who say, I want to follow my joy, but my joy doesn't make me money, and hence I have to do the things that can help me feed myself? Like how do you grapple with that?
24 hours, 7 days a week. How much is 24 times 7? You mean to tell me you can't find 2 or 3 hours in 24? Or how much of 24 is 4? So that's, I don't know. I fail math. I took a pass fail in college because I don't have to be good at everything. But you have to create it. That's an excuse. That is an excuse that you give yourself to avoid giving yourself the joy. If you are too busy that you don't have an hour a week, 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week to do what brings you joy, then you're just too darn busy. Too busy.
Yeah. Yeah. I would add that if you did give yourself an hour a day or 3 hours a week, whatever it is, you get more time out of that. It's like your week feels a little bit longer because you're enjoying it more, and then you're able to focus your energy more sharply and more intently on the things you care about. So it's like you're getting more time out, even though it seems like you're not.
It's very important. We have to think of this side. Everybody's going to die one day. And what do you want people to say at your funeral? Oh, they worked very hard. They was never late. They paid all their bills on time and was miserable and meaner than a wet cat otherwise. When I smile because I love being alive. I work hard, but I love being alive because I do what brings me joy. You know what brings me joy? Law and Order reruns. Hey! And now I'm into NYPD Blue. I love NYPD Blue. So I'll go to bed at 9 o'clock and wake up at midnight so that I can watch an episode of NYPD Blue because it brings me joy. I love Sipowicz. Love him.
That's amazing.
You got to find what brings you joy.
Mm-hmm. So Norma's asking, how to join your morning prayer call?
Oh, no, that's for my students at my institute. But if you come from the ground up, you'll get a prayer every single week that I voice for you. So, yeah. No, I train coaches, and I have coaches who are going through the training process right now, and they are on a 5:30 a.m. prayer call.
Nice. If someone has the link to the course, please drop that in there so that people can check it out.
Yeah.
Um,
Or send me an email to iyamla@iyamla.com and just put ground up in the subject line. That's all you have to do. iyamla@iyamla.com. Put ground up in the subject line. I thought my assistant would be on here too. She could drop it in there. Kirsten, if you're there, drop it in for us.
nice. All right, so question from Yolanda Haywood. There's a lot of noise with unqualified life coaches and the internet being ever so prevalent for platforms. What journey did you take to position yourself as an expert?
I'm not an expert. Absolutely not. If you had seen me running around trying to get these eyelashes on before this thing, you would know I am not an expert. I was very fortunate. You know, coaching as a public platform was created by a gentleman named Thomas Leonard. And I think he was an electrical engineer. And he decided that he wanted to do this coaching thing and that he was going to mount it just like you, Cy, online. And he had 24 guinea pigs that he put through the program, and I was one. And when he finished that, he mounted Coach U online. Coach U. It was myself and Carol, what's Carol's last name? Martin, I think, or Miller. And we were the two women of color. So I was trained by the father of coaching. And then I added the spiritual piece because that's just who I am.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Okay, this one might be a big one right here from Cookie. How do you address stigmas and other cognitive biases?
Wow, people got these really intellectual questions. What does that mean? How do I break it down for me, Si? I'm old.
I mean, maybe we start with the cognitive biases. So
What's
people
a
have
cognitive
biases.
bias?
Man, I don't know if Cookie, you can help me out with your version of this, but for me, I interpret that as we all have there's a diversity of types of ways of thinking, neurodiversity, right? Some folks are more likely to think, maybe more analytically versus creatively.
Oh, okay. See, I think of that spiritually. Some people are intellectual, some people, and there's four learning things or cognitive. It's audio visual, meaning you got to hear it and see it. There's audio, meaning you got to hear it. Then there's visual, meaning you got to see it. There's sentient, which means you got to feel it. And then there's auditory digital, which means you got to think it. So you gotta understand how you operate. See, I'm an auditory person. I can read all day, but if I don't hear it, it doesn't land to me. So I think it's about, just like in the educational system, learning how you learn, because everybody doesn't learn the same way. Learning how you learn, learning how you think, learning how what you feel in your body. So, and she wanted to know what to do with those things now. What's the rest
Just
of the
to kind of
question?
address them, and specifically how to deal with others' perceptions of you versus your beliefs.
Let me wipe my mouth. That is so good. Cookie, is that her name? I want to. Is it Cookie Bonnie?
Cookie
Okay.
Street Fighters.
Cookie, learn your love language. How do you experience and express love? And then learn to recognize how other people experience and express love. Because if you can learn what your love language is and you stand fully in that, some people do words of affirmation, some do quality time, some do giving, some do service. Your words of affirmation will strengthen you. I mean, your language of love will strengthen you. Then no matter how your cognitive process is, you will be moving from a place of love and people will be able to receive it. People were, because when people say those are AD people. Or people say I see, those are visual people. Or people say I hear you, those are auditory people. Ooh, that
Hmm.
feel, I can feel that. Those people are satiant, you know. So once you really understand your love language and how you express, whether you're AD or AV or auditory or satiant, you will be able to express yourself um, from a place of love. And people will
Hmm.
receive that. Love is the greatest binder, healer, bridge builder ever. You can do it with love. And you know what? Stop worrying about what people think about you. You know, the good thing I realized about getting old is you don't care what people think, because you're so old you forget.
Hmm.
I don't. What did they say? When? When did they say that? I didn't
That's
even.
great. I think that's a good place to pause, and we're just past the hour here. So the last thing I want to just ask before we close up today is, there's a lot of folks out there, particular customers or folks who are going live and hosting online communities and online courses and teaching online, that are just getting started out, just starting out rather. Do you have any advice for those folks if you were in their shoes today? Something that you would want them to be aware of.
Believe in what you do. Don't just do it for the money. Don't just do it for the money. I know it's a quick buy. There's a whole marketing scheme and the upsell and the boot. You know, there's a whole psychology around offering things online and getting people to click a button and they buy this and then they get that and stuff like that. I say to you, if you're a teacher or an entrepreneur, whatever it is, a beauty expert, whatever it is, do it because you love it, and do it with excellence. Do it with excellence. I'm not talking about typos. I'm talking about how you present and what you present. Let it be a shining demonstration and testimony to your heart, and do it because you love it. Yeah, that's what I would say. Because there's a lot of good stuff out there. I've seen some stuff.
That's beautiful advice. So do it because you love it.
Yeah.
And with that, I want to thank you so much, Yanla, for taking the time to be with our community, for sharing your wisdom, going to your life story, sharing things that may not be easy, but is very, very helpful for a lot of the folks watching, to hear these messages and to see that someone, can get through it,
Yeah.
and the topic of today was finding your, purpose and creativity. I think we talked plenty on that. So thank you so much.
Do what brings you joy. Do what you're good at. Understand that your purpose may not be your paycheck, and do it because you love it.
Hmm.
Do it for
Exactly.
free. Yeah.
Exactly. And then if you guys want to join Yanla's course, there's a link in the chat somewhere if someone can drop it in again. And she's going to be going live in 2 days. So definitely follow
Rock
her
bottom.
account. You could just like hover over her face in the people tab and check that Crowdcast stuff that's coming up soon. So
Yeah.
with that, thank you so much, Yanla.
Thank
And
you,
then
Sai.
for sure. And then for the folks sticking around, in 2 weeks, we're going to have Marie Pauline on Crowdcast. She is an amazing business systems thinker, and has a show where she goes into how to use Notion. So if you love Notion, the product to write notes, you definitely want to check that out. But if you want to just learn how to build smart systems, check that out as well. I'm going to drop in a
He
big
is
blue button
amazing.
underneath here. Marie is actually
He's a
who helped introduce us to Yanla. So we have
Yeah.
to thank Marie for
She
bringing
does
Yanla
all
to
my tech
Crowdcast.
stuff. She does all my tech stuff.
Exactly. So if you wanted the other half of this Crowdcast, join us in 2 weeks. So with that, thank you so much, Yanla. Have a great day. And everyone, thank you for joining us.
Bye.